if you colleagues and audience, if anyone out there would like to present on this platform, if you have anything interesting, please feel free to reach out to us, and we will make a plan and slot you in, and so that you can also then give a presentation on a project you might be busy on, or any product you might have, your research, anything interesting. Please feel free to reach out, and we can then engage on the side and then slot you in. Um, so that's now the plans for next year. And again, for those who are new, we run this on the second Tuesday of every month, with December and January being a break. And so yeah, let's see how this goes. Today's topic, we're going to be focusing on wastewater treatment work, and specifically the wastewater treatment at the city of Tshwane. As you all would know, colleagues, that when it comes to water, water is a very valuable resource, and we are under increasing pressure. We need to be effective in how we manage water, and so the effective treatment of wastewater is quite essential in not only protecting public health but the environment as well, just to make sure that the quality we send back out into the environment is of a suitable quality that does not impact nature and our well-being. So again, wastewater treatment plants, play a vital role in safeguarding, our water bodies, ensuring that sustainability of our communities. Again, like indicated by removing pollutants and pathogens from wastewater. So it's very important that we pay attention to these facilities as well. And just out of interest, I was just running some stats the other day, just to see what's the biggest facility. So I discovered that the Jean Marcotte wastewater treatment work in Canada is the largest, with a capacity of 7.6 million cubic meters per day. So it's quite significant. And coming back to our continent, there's a Bahar al Bark wastewater treatment work in Egypt. That's the largest in Africa, with a capacity of 5.6. So the Canadian ones are 7.6 million cubic meters per day. This the Egyptian one is 5.6. So quite close. Depends how you want to look at it. And come back to South Africa. Now the biggest one is in Cape Town, the Zandvlei wastewater treatment work at 0.09 million cubic meters per day. So it's quite, a drop in the ocean compared to the bigger ones, but there's much more bigger facilities out there, and hopefully one day we can visit them. Today we are, fortunate to have distinguished expert, to shed the light. I would like to introduce, my presenter, Mr. Sibusiso Mnguni. He is also a panel member or a committee member at our, SAICE Knowledge Trailblazer. So he's come on board to then, give us the presentation. A highly experienced individual, a professional from Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority, and so he'll shed some insight. And then I'm confident that this webinar will provide, valuable information and insight, and stimulate thought-provoking discussion. So as we have the presentation, I've got a technical panel online that will then, they'll introduce themselves as they come through. We want to have an engagement and a discussion on the topic, and I want to encourage you as the audience to also then participate. So have your questions ready. We'll open up your mics and come on board, talk, share your thoughts, your views, ideas, so that we can have a conversation and a discussion. So Sibusiso, let me hand over to you. If you can introduce yourself and run your presentation, and then after that we'll then introduce our technical panel. Sibusiso, do you know, just introduce yourself? Let's tell us who you are.
Hi, good afternoon, colleagues. As Takil has indicated, I'm Sibusiso Mnguni. I'm from TCTA, and I'm responsible for the coordination of SIP19. If you are familiar with the technology, it's a strategic integrated project number 19. Yes, let me just share my presentation. Are you able to see the presentation? Okay, I see the thumbs up. Okay. Yes, as the chairperson has indicated, the topic for today is a review of the performance of the City of Tshwane's wastewater treatment system. I've tried to keep it short in order to allow for engagement, for discussions. It's not meant to be just a lecture from one side, but we will have opportunity for an engagement. So I'm just going to share. Uh, okay, the presentation outline. I'll share with you some introduction and background in terms of TCTA, who we are and what we do, and why we are involved on this project. And then the City of Tshwane, just to share, to give an idea of the regions and key statistics of the city, as well as share with you local water sources in Tshwane and return flows to streams. And then I'll share also wastewater infrastructure asset portfolio, the City of Tshwane's wastewater treatment capacities, and then the general system performance, how the performance of the various treatment plants is measured. And then I'll just share briefly the national as well as the Gauteng risk profile using that criteria. Then I will go into detail in terms of the City of Tshwane system itself, the system performance, looking at it plant by plant, using the criteria that is used for the green drop progress performance reporting. And then I'll just give an overall City of Tshwane, how is it doing in relation to the province of Gauteng, as well as in relation to the national view. And then I'll conclude and give some recommendations. Just to then go into the introduction, TCTA and its 19 coordination mandate. I've put down some points there mentioning the Infrastructure Development Act of 2014, Infrastructure South Africa, and the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Commission. In 2014, the Minister of Water and Sanitation, it was Minister Edna at the time, appointed TCTA to coordinate Strategic Infrastructure Project number 18. It was SIP 18 at the time, which covered the National Water and Sanitation portfolio across the country, which basically meant coordinating and tracking progress and reporting on all water and sanitation infrastructure, right from the national, regional, local, at municipal level as well. So TCTA then does this work at the moment and reports on a quarterly basis to Infrastructure South Africa. And they in turn report to the PICC, Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Commission, which is chaired by the President. And on a quarterly basis, I understand that the PICC Council which the president chairs, will be meeting sometime this month. I can't remember the date, but it is this month of November, and they will be looking at progress that is made on all the infrastructure projects across the country, those that are strategic and prioritized. In 2020, that SIP 18, which basically included everything and everything to do with water and sanitation infrastructure, the SIPs were changed, reorganized, and the water and sanitation infrastructure SIP became SIP 19, and there were 11 gazetted projects that were part of SIP 19, that are part of SIP 19, and they range from national water resources to water treatment works to wastewater treatment plants, those that are strategic, of a strategic nature nationally, and some of them are irrigation projects like the Valhart's Taung National Irrigation Scheme. Over and above the 11 gazetted projects, some projects were moved from SIP 18 to SIP 19, and those projects include all the national water resources infrastructure projects that are in construction. One of them, for example, the raising of the Clan William Dam in the Western Cape. And then the regional bulk infrastructure projects, the projects that are grant funded from what we call RBIC, and we track those projects, identify the priority ones in each of the 9 provinces, and we track progress and report. And where there are challenges, we then unblock those challenges, whether they are regulatory challenges, wherever possible, through the Infrastructure South Africa vehicle, they are able to unlock those at a higher level. And then we also track or coordinate the water board's capital infrastructure projects, the metropolitan capital infrastructure projects, all the metros in the country, as well as the national irrigation projects. So that's basically what the SIP 19 mandate entails for TCTA. So this, how we came to be interested in this particular project is because the metros and the wastewater treatment system, the metros do report to TCTA on a quarterly basis, and that is how we came to know about the wastewater treatment system in Tshwane. It's not really the core mandate of TCTA. TCTA core mandate is on the raising of funding and the implementation of the bulk raw water infrastructure in South Africa, as well as on a binational basis, like the Lesotho Highlands Water Project. TCTA is involved, as well as the upcoming Komazi Water Project and others. So the core business of TCTA is really in the development of bulk raw water infrastructure, tunnels, pipelines, pump stations of a mega nature. So let's then move on to the city of Tshwane, just to give you an overview of the regions of the city. There are 7 regions, just so that when we look at the treatment plants, you have an idea where they are. So the regions range from the west to the east. From region 1, the dark blue there is region 1, and then region 2, region 3, region 4, region 5, region 6, and 7 towards the east, the far east of Tshwane. Tshwane is quite large geographically, as you can see, I think, compared to other metros. And the population of the city is just over 4 million. From Stats SA, the general household survey that they did. And in 2011, when we had the census, it was just under 3 million. So it's about, the population has grown by about 1 million in the past 10 years or so. And the households that have got waterborne sanitation, it's in 2011 it was 78.7%, and in 2022 it grew up to 81.5%. So there is some improvement in terms of coverage of ensuring that people have got access to basic sanitation services. Further on then is the local water sources and return flows to streams in the city of Tshwane. Those blue triangles are basically reservoirs or dams, and the green green boxes there is the water purification plants, and the red ones are wastewater treatment plants. And the area or the city is basically has got 2 river catchments. The bigger one, about 2/3 being the Crocodile River catchment, and the smaller one, or about 1/3, being in the east, the Oliphants River catchment. So you can see that the water or the city sources or manages its water resources by reusing the return flows, or treating the effluent from the wastewater treatment plants. It gets reused. It's not direct, but indirect. But that's how the city balances its demands in terms of water resources. Just to move on, then is the indication of the asset portfolio in the city of Tshwane. Right at the top there, we've got the treatment works, wastewater treatment works. Across the 7 regions, you can see region 1 has got plants worth 102 megaliters a day. And region 2 has got 257 megaliters a day that it treats, and the total is 566 megaliters across the metro. And the pump stations in the metro is about 78 of them, where wastewater or sewage needs to be pumped up. And close to 150,000 manholes in the network. And then the pipelines, you've got the pipeline network, the reticulation network is close to 7,000 kilometers. And the collector lines, about 1,000 kilometers. And pipeline bulk, 381, and the rising mains, 54 kilometers, so 54,000 kilometers. So as you can see that in water treatment networks would normally use gravity as much as possible, but where it is not possible, you have to pump using the pump stations and the rising mains. The total length of the pipelines, 2,000 kilometers in Region 1, and going all the way and giving a total of 8,000 kilometers of sewer lines across the metro. And the estimated replacement value was 23 billion rand, and that's the 2016 figure that we've got. Moving right on, we now look at the wastewater treatment works capacities, how the various treatment plants, their capacities, their design capacities, as well as their operational flows. There is a total of 16 plants across the metro in various regions, as you can see. And the design capacities, for example, Zandspruit, which discharges into the Tshwane River, has got a capacity of 20 megaliters a day. And the operational flow, 10.5 megaliters a day. And that gives a spare capacity of 43. So in terms of capacity and size, the treatment plant is fine. It's not stretched. But you do have others like Temba, which has got a capacity of 12.5 megaliters a day, and the operational flow of 9.5. So it's quite close to capacity, and that's why it's highlighted. Just to look at these, all these plants and looking at which one is the largest in terms of percentage. If you look at number 2 at the bottom there, the Rooiwal treatment plant, which is 220 megaliters a day, treats about close to 40% of the load in the metro. And yeah, that's why it has been quite a focus in the past few years because of the challenges that they've been experiencing. I was going to give more details on that, but there won't be enough time to cover everything today because we need to allow for discussions as well, for engagements. It's meant to be a fireside chat and not a lecture as such. Yeah, I think that gives you an idea then of the capacities, as previously indicated, a total of 566 megaliters a day. And overall, the spare capacity is 21.6. But these figures, of course, might be a bit dated. I think we got this information in 2016, 8 years ago or something. It might have changed slightly, but that gives you an idea of where we are in Tshwane. Just moving on to the criteria that is used to measure the performance of the treatment works. What is used is the CRR, the cumulative risk rating, and the CRR has got 4 risk indicators. And the first one being in other words, they look at the hydraulic design capacity of the treatment plant in kiloliters a day. So, so what goes into that CRR is the design capacity as well as the operational flow as a percentage of the design capacity. And then C is the number of non-compliant effluent quality parameters at the point of discharge to the receiving water body. In other words, how many non-compliances are there in the effluent as it leaves the plant and goes into the receiving stream. And then D looks at the technical skills gap. What are the gaps in terms of skills? In terms of supervision, have you got enough qualified supervisors? Have you got maintenance staff and operational teams? Are they there? Are they available? Are they qualified? If there are any gaps, then that gets factored into the CRR, into the calculation of the CRR value. And the CRR value is calculated for each of the municipal, public works, and selected privately owned wastewater treatment facilities in the country, as provided in the Green Drop Progress Report. So in other words, I think the majority or the bulk of the wastewater treatment plants are owned by the municipalities, and then some owned by public works, and some privately owned. The CRR deviation, which is used to measure the actual risk, to rate the risk of each plant. CRR deviation is actually calculated as the CRR value over the CRR maximum. In other words, it's used to indicate the variance of a CRR value before it reaches its maximum CRR value. So it's the ratio of those two as a percentage. And the CRR deviation is then categorized into 4. If the CRR is below 50%, the plant is deemed to be in the low risk range. It's the risk is low. If it is from 50 to below 70%, it's in the medium range. If it is 70 to below 90, it's in the high risk range. And if it is 90 and above, it is in the critical range. In other words, the plant is practically dysfunctional if it's in the critical range. So that is the categorization that is then used to assess each of the plants. But before I go into detail with each of the plants in the city of Tshwane, I just want to give the national profile of all the wastewater treatment plants across the country. And these are the 2023 figures, the report that was released a year ago. It showed that about a third of the treatment plants in the country are in the critical state. In other words, they're practically dysfunctional, which is a worrying factor. It's quite a high percentage. And another third is in the high risk range, and then about 25% or about a quarter is in the medium risk range, and about a tenth is in the low risk range. So it's quite, the national picture is quite bad because it looks at all the wastewater treatment plants in the cities, in the in the towns, in rural towns and so on. But when you look at Gauteng, the picture changes somewhat. You find that the plants that are in the critical range go down to 7%, and in the high risk range, a quarter, and in the medium range, 44%, and in the low range, also about a quarter. So that's the picture in the province. I do suspect that that 7% where the plants are in the critical range could be some municipalities in the south of Gauteng that discharge into the Vaal River, because that's where there's been issues with the quality of, or in fact, untreated effluent going into the streams. Yeah, and some interventions have been made in that regard, and I certainly hope that the situation is improving. Let's then move on to I think this is the main slide really that we're going to look at each and every one of the 16 plants and how it is rated in terms of risk. I hope you can see. I can barely see myself, but I can sort of make out that the first one is Babelechi, is in, I think it's in, yeah, it's in the north of the city of Tshwane. If you look at the 4 indicators, A, B, and C, those are then used to calculate the risk rating of each plant. A being the design capacity. If you just look at the first plant there is 23,000 kiloliters a day, and the operational flow is 100, so it's operating at full capacity. There is no spec capacity in that treatment plant. And the effluent quality non-compliances, there's 7 of them, and those are the factors that they look at: the physical quality, chemical, microbiological non-compliances. So that gives you the number there for C. And then for technical skills compliance, you look at how the works are resourced in terms of operators, maintenance, supervision, 50%, 100, and if you calculate the average there, it will give you that 72.2% for technical skills compliance. And then you can then calculate your CRR. CRR for last year, November 2023, is 76 something. So it is in the high risk range, this particular plant. And you do that for each and every one of those plants, just to see how the level of the risk. When I engaged with my colleague from the city of Tshwane, because I was wondering about the northern works, and he clarified that that Rooiwal plant has basically got 3 treatment plants. There is the Rooiwal West plant, which at the moment is dysfunctional because of vandalism, I understand. So the load that is supposed to treat 40 megaliters a day then gets diverted into the Rooiwal North, which is number 7. Uh, and that is why actually the operational flow, you can see it's over 100%. And the Rooiwal East number 11 is also part of the Rooiwal plant. But the upgrades that are being done at the moment at the northern works, rehabilitation, as well as at the moment is the rehabilitation of the existing, and then the next phases will then expand or extend the capacity of the plant. Yeah, as you can see then, just looking at the CRR, there are no plants that are in the critical state in the city of Tshwane. So that 7% that we saw in Gauteng must be belonging elsewhere. And in 2022, the number 6 plant, that Klapgat, that plant was in a critical state, and if you look further down, some refurbishment work has been done to restore the plant. And in a year later, or when the report was published, it had gone from critical to high risk range. So it has improved. And just to look at number 13, for example, it was first, if you look at the CRR for 2022, it was in the low range. But in 2023, it regressed and went back to the high risk range. So was the case with number 15, the timber treatment works. So that is generally the picture of the performance of the system in the city of Tshwane, and the description of capital and refurbishment projects where they give details of what has been done or needs to be done in order to improve the performance of the plants. And sort of you also have an indication there above that second blue line there. You've got the capital and refurbishment costs. It gives an indication of how much is required to refurbish the plants to improve the capacity in each plant across the metro. Okay, let me then move on from this slide to some conclusions and recommendations. Okay, the CRR in the Green Drop report last year gave the whole city a rating of 69.4, which places the city's wastewater treatment system very close to the high risk range. Because if you remember, the high risks range goes from 70% to just under 90. So the whole system is actually quite close to high risk overall. And 11 of the 16 plants are operating either at 100% or more than their capacity. I think it was actually 9 that were operating at 100% and 2 that were above capacity. And There were no plants, as I pointed out, that were dysfunctional, that were in the critical state, and there are no plants that were in the low risk state. So all the plants, as we saw, they are either in the medium or high risk range, but no critical or low risk range. Let me just see, before I got here, I think I did miss this slide, which is basically a pictorial which tells the story in pictures. If you compare the national profile versus the Gauteng profile versus the city of Tshwane, nationally we have looked at it that a third is critical nationally, 7% is critical in the province, and no plants are in the critical state in the city of Tshwane. And those that are in the high range, high risk, 34% nationally, 25% provincially, 31% in the metro. And medium risk, a quarter, and then 44% in the region, in the Gauteng region, and 69% in the metro. Yeah, and then of course, as I've indicated, no risk. So the city needs to move to work towards moving more plants to the low risk range, ideally. Just to conclude, I think I've got 3 minutes to complete the presentation. As I indicated, the CRR indicates that the city's the whole system is close to high risk range, and those that are operating at capacity or above capacity, 11 out of 16. No plants in the dysfunctional range, no plants in the low risk range. And the upgrades then, if you look at the whole system, upgrades and refurbishments are essential to improve treatment capacities. So ongoing upgrades and maintenance is important. And spare capacity is critical to reduce the incidences of untreated effluent, pollution during routine maintenance and breakdown. If a plant, in other words, is operating at capacity, then there is no room for shutdowns or breakdowns for maintenance. It becomes a problem. Then you will inevitably have some untreated effluent going into the streams, polluting the streams. And the implementation of the interventions identified in the Green Drop report, if you implement those, in fact, identify more critical actions or corrective actions that will help to improve the performance of the system, and it will reduce the number of high risk plants, which we have a lot of, and it will shift some plants into the low risk range, which is what is desirable, to have all these plants going into the low risk range. That is just a picture of a stream, Apis River, downstream of the Rooiwal wastewater treatment plant, which is currently being, phase 1 is currently being upgraded, and I think it is due for completion. That upgrade is due for completion this month. I'm just waiting for the latest report, but hopefully once the upgrade is completed, this situation will change, will improve in the Apis River. And there are plans that with the further phases that the stream will actually be reinstated into a pristine state, as they say. And then lastly, I would like to thank you then for your attention and open up for discussions and questions and comments. That picture that you see there is in the Hennops River near Centurion. That it was taken about 3 years ago, and that is real. That's the real sewage. If you do go there, you will feel the smell, what it smells like. And it's obviously the treatment plants that are upstream that are discharging untreated sewage into the Hennops River.
Yeah. No, thanks,
Okay,
thanks,
thank you.
Sibusiso.
Thank you,
No,
Takir.
that definitely something that needs some attention, and I'm hoping that the necessary authorities responsible will then do what they need to do. Okay, colleagues, apologies for early on. I somehow seem to gotten cut off and kicked out, but I am back. But thank you very much, Sibusiso, for that presentation. And yeah, I think then let's have a conversation and a discussion. Just out of interest, the CRR methodology that you showed us, is that your own self-developed methodology, or is that international practice, Sibusiso? So yeah, so all this, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I think my colleague from Tshwane can come in, but I understand that the Department of Water and Sanitation uses this criteria. They have to source or specialists or consultants or service providers to render the service, but as to how as to whether this is an international standard or a nationally developed
Yeah.
criteria, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, but looks very interesting. I mean, it's a different way of planning and determining the performance of your asset. And what I'm just thinking out loud is that how can one adopt something similar for other assets as well? And I'm sure as a municipality, you manage other assets, roads, water, electricity, and whatnot. So I see our representative from City of Tshwane, he is online. He's got his hand up. Cornelius, I think let
Can
me ask you
Hills.
to come in. If you can introduce yourself, you can just put your camera on so you can see you. Tell us who you are, what you do, and then if you can then guide us in terms of this uh, uh, tool that we have here. Thanks.
Good. Thank you very much, Takir and Sibusiso for presenting. The CRR has been developed as part of the Green Drop initiative by the National Department of Water and Sanitation. It was implemented in 2009 and it is currently still in use. There is also a Green Drop handbook as a guideline explaining the CRR principles and how to implement it at the different wastewater treatment works. It's not a system that was developed internationally. It was locally developed as an excellent program by the Water and Sanitation
Yeah.
Department.
No, thanks, Camille. And then, could this then be applied to other infrastructure, other assets? I know there may be some criteria that might be quite specific to wastewater treatment in terms of quality of effluent, but I'm sure those variables can be changed for other type of variables. But yeah, just testing. Just your views. Can you apply this to other infrastructure as well?
My viewpoint is that you need to change the CRR rating, the principles, because we're looking at specifically wastewater treatment works.
Yeah.
Also at the water treatment works, where we look at design capacity, operational capacity, effluent quality, skills that has been used by the municipalities. So it's very specific for the water environment in South Africa, for the water industry. So I think it can be changed at other systems, other types of industries like as you have mentioned, roads and electricity, but they will
Yeah.
need to look at different ways of measuring
Yeah.
capacity and quality compliance.
No, thanks for looking at it. Like I said, I'm finding it as a very interesting tool, and I would want to maybe engage offline further on it, just to see, how one could apply that to other infrastructure. Okay, Canils, I just want to just start with you now. Looking at now then the presentation that Sebusiso had done, maybe just to give yourself as a City of Tshwane an opportunity just to comment. And if you can just give us, some insight into what was presented, and I don't know if there's any specific challenges that you might have when it comes to managing these assets. What are the typical challenges that you are faced with as a municipality? How do you overcome them? And is there any lessons that you could share with us, lessons learned, Canils?
Takir, yes, we have challenges in the municipality to continue to sustain the business. I think one of the biggest challenges that we experience is funding. Um, and if we do not have the necessary funding to operate, by meaning as dosing our chemicals and also with the maintenance requirements, then it would become impossible to maintain our infrastructure, which will then eventually result in inferior quality of effluent that will be discharged into the rivers, causing major pollution spills. So we really need, just not for operation and maintenance, but we also need funding for continuous development in our catchment by adding additional treatment capacity. And funding is again a problem or a challenge for municipalities, not only for City of Tshwane, but I think it's also countrywide. We have also to protect our infrastructure. We experienced a very sharp increase in vandalism and theft. If it was not on site, it was sometimes also off site supply systems of power that has been vandalized over the night. We need to protect the infrastructure. So, what we have done in some of our wastewater treatment works, we have installed a smart security system where we have 3 layers of fence. The one is a normal wire fence. The other fence is a concrete palisade, followed with the inner fence as an electric fence with zoned alarms. Then we also have roaming or camera systems that can zoom in and that can follow you on the plant to follow you in places where you might be able to hide. And then we also implemented a virtual fence so that if you get close, and a possible intruder get closer to the physical fence within 2 meters away, we will have a voiceover indicating that you are intruding an unauthorized key point and you need to remove yourself. And if you're not removing yourself, we will send out the necessary armed response. I can just maybe mention what recently happened at one of our other plants. It was also as a media statement. We had an inlet works. We're protecting it currently by deploying 4 armed security guards. At about 8 o'clock at night, they were overwhelmed by 10 armed suspects. They were tied up, and only in the early morning, one of the security guards were released, and his cuff was used to lock the entrance gate. He escaped and he raised the alarm. So our inlet works was totally vandalized for the second time. So we need to protect using smart security systems.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is mainly it. We have costed maintenance plans. We submitted that annually to our budget office, but due to the financial constraints currently in municipalities, the necessary funds is not allocated to sustain the costed maintenance plans, and only a drop in the bucket has been received. So we need to prioritize on reactive maintenance, critical
Yeah.
infrastructure before we can do preventative maintenance.
Yeah. No, I say that can be quite challenging, especially if you're faced with vandalism. I mean that takes away funds that you could have spent on maintenance or upgrading infrastructure. So yeah, I mean that is quite a systematic issue and problem throughout the country as well. Yeah, Sebastian, I was going to ask if you can come in. I see you've got your hand up. If you can just maybe also then and just reflect on what Camille's had indicated, and maybe also indicate how yourself as TCATA supports municipalities in obtaining funds where they're not able to obtain funds. If you can just give us a bit of insight, Sebastian. Thanks. You on
Yes,
mute? Okay,
Takir.
there you go. Yeah.
Yes. I was also just going to mention that when I had a discussion with Niels this morning, yeah, I was surprised that, like in the Rooiwal plant, there is a plant, the Rooiwal West plant, with a capacity of 40 megaliters a day. And it seems like the city has basically given up on it because of it has been vandalized. So it's dysfunctional as we speak. And also the plant, I think that Kleprat one that was in the critical state a year or so ago, it was due to vandalism. So it's a very serious concern, which I think really needs high level intervention from the principals to ensure that this doesn't occur, because it comes at a huge cost to the city. And I think during one of the sessions that we had in the internal to TCTA, when we're talking about the Rooiwal plant, a social specialist mentioned that there needs to be more involvement of the community, not just during construction, but also during operations and maintenance, so that the community can have a sense of ownership of the assets of the infrastructure and can provide some protection or security to these public works, because these plants belong to the public.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just in terms of TCTA itself, it's as I indicated, we're not really in the wastewater space or in the municipal
Noted,
space.
noted, yeah. And I was going to
Yes.
ask, what is TCTA doing in China? Because you're supposed to be in the Western Cape and Caledon, but I guess you are evolving quite a bit. But yeah, I know it was just a little humorous question I had in mind. No,
Yes.
thanks for that, Siso. Okay, I see. We've got I think it's the Dr. Swimba online. Doctor, if you can come through, maybe introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and you can come through with your comment. And I'd also like you just to reflect on the presentation made by Sibusiso.
Okay, thanks very much, Chair. My name is John Ngoni. I'm from the Water Research Commission. I'm a research manager responsible for a research portfolio on mining and industrial water management. But previously, I've managed a number of projects focusing on municipal wastewater management, and I know Kinels very well. He has been very useful for us in the WRC in terms of allowing us to do our projects using their plans as case studies, as served as reference group member, and all the other things that we request our partners to be part of. Now, on the basis of the experience that I have in managing these previous projects, actually, if you look at the presentation that Sibusise has given, for me, I think that or believe that one of the reasons why we are bogged with all these operational challenges, which is always a problem with managing wastewater with regards to how wastewater treatment plants perform. When you look at the Green Drop report, one thing which actually is not characteristic to the city of Tshwane only, but it's a nationwide phenomenon is that thing that is called the wastewater risk abatement planning. Why I'm saying that, because we developed that plan the moment DWS, as our line department, decided to have this incentive-based program where they would actually sort of audit municipalities and try to understand how they are performing. So we thought that the risk-based approach is the best approach to ensure that you deal with all the possible risks that you are likely to encounter in as far as wastewater management is concerned. If you look at that presentation, for the 2022 audit, you can see that all the plans, they are having a draft document, which means they are planning to have that particular plan. And then for the progress progress part of it, which was in 2023, there is no proof, which means no one has actually moved in terms of implementing the plan. When in fact that plan is the one that allows you to identify all the risks that are associated with wastewater management, be it operational challenges, maintenance challenges, security issues, financial challenges, all the things that Kenel was actually raising. And then you as a municipality, you can now begin to prioritize those risks in terms of how you are going to intervene and address them over time in preparation for the next audit. And this is not peculiar to the city of Tshwane only. There are other municipalities that are more disadvantaged, where funding has been provided by Department of Science and Innovation as far as their rural projects that they've sort of rolled out, where we have been the implementing agent, where we went out there and developed these plans with these B type of municipalities, and you leave those plans in place, but come implementation, it's always a problem. So for me, as long as municipalities are not going to really use this particular aspect to actually deal with their challenges, then most of the problems are not going to go away. You can see right across, if you look at that presentation, it's really very clear. And this is really the responsibility of council to ensure that these plans really are implemented. They provide the resources, financial and otherwise, so that we can manage wastewater sustainably. So that's the challenge that we have in municipalities. I always tell people that we say municipalities are dysfunctional. We create this problem because there are things that we are not doing properly. Yes, I understand there are those who are putting an effort, and we appreciate that, but it's the simplest of things. It's not even about the technology, really. It's the simplest of things that we are failing to do, really, which we are supposed to look into and really ensure that we deal with the issues and challenges that are associated with managing wastewater properly. But I will stop here, and I will come in later to give others a chance.
No, thanks for the insight, Dr. Zwimba. And can I then just check then with the tool that was developed now? And my understanding is that it was developed to help municipalities to understand where the key critical focus areas are. And I would also understand that this then supports the budget that's being applied for. So if used properly, the municipalities will then know what they need to do. If it's now security, if it's other operational matters, then use this to then support the budget they are applying for. Is my assumption correct, Dr. Zwimba? Was that the intention of this tool as well?
Yes, it covers all aspects associated with the risks that really are problematic in terms of you managing wastewater sustainably. So you are able to identify all the risks. You prioritize them in terms of how you are going to address them. You can't address all the risks just in one day.
No.
But you now have a plan in terms of, say, a 3-year plan in terms of how you are going to address your risk. You mobilize the resources. After 3 years, next audit, we should see an improvement. But now you can see its characteristic there. That plan is there. You can see right across the whole profile of the plans. Draft, when they did the audit, we have got a draft document. I can tell you that draft document is still on the shelf. They come for the progress audit, which is the second one. Remember, they alternate. They do audit, they do progress, DWS. That's how they do this green drop. You can see now there is no proof in terms of really what has transpired. It's right across, unless maybe this information is not up to date. But if this is the correct information, I can tell you 60% of the problems are as a result of that scenario.
Yeah. No, I guess look, with any authority is always going to be a challenge, getting work done and then closing out your actions. But yeah. No, thanks for that, Dr. Swimba. Okay, let me then move on to our next panel member, Anderson from Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality. So coming from a different province, different municipality, Anderson, if you can come through and then just introduce yourself and maybe share your, your views of this presentation and being another municipality, yourself also being in charge of wastewater treatment work in the Nelson Mandela municipality, similar experiences from your side. What are you doing? Do you use the same tool? Give us a better insight from your side, Anderson, if you can come through.
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Anderson Mangochwa. I'm the director for wastewater treatment within Nelson Mandela Bay Metro. That includes the former Port Elizabeth, Utenake, and Dispatch towns. It's along the coast in the Eastern Cape. I share the presentation with the Tshwane colleagues. The issues that are raised are quite common. In the Nelson Mandela, we've got a treatment capacity of 205 megaliters per day. And I see Tshwane is going far as 566, which is, I'm just a small boy. And then on the other side, our pumping stations for sewers, it's 89, whilst Tshwane has got 78. And then our sewer network, if you put in terms of the length, it's 3,900 kilometers. The issue of theft and vandalism, perhaps let me start there. It's common across. And the sad thing within the wastewater treatment environment is when these things are happening, it looks like it becomes the burden of the guys at the treatment works. Reports are made, they are sent to various levels of authority, but you just don't see the response on that in dealing with that, with the protection of the sites. On our side as Nelson Mandela, we've also had an engagement with the Eastern Cape SALGA unit, especially on the theft and vandalism of the infrastructure. And one of the issues that came out there was the request that these facilities should actually be reviewed in terms of the national key points. If that can be done and declared as such, then it will need a different type of security personnel. Currently, people can go and do whatever they want to do at the treatment works. One of our treatment works, we actually had a guy who was attacked on duty. And if you get stuff like that, then it becomes a problem for the guys to run the operations. And our view as Nelson Mandela is also that we need to understand our municipal business. The treatment of wastewater is not only for sanitation. The entire municipality should be responsible for that. It starts with your corporate services. When you need staffing, they must be up to speed to do that. Because your typical example, your general worker, it may do the functions that he or she is appointed to do, but he or she also contributes in terms of security, because the more you have visibility within the treatment facility, the intruders or the culprits who wants to come and vandalize the center, they see visibility and they back off. But if it's quiet, then it attracts them to come into the premises. The funding is a challenge. We do the service. Your water and sanitation is normally a trading service within the municipality. But the revenue that comes from there, it's not ring fenced, where you can say that I have collected this revenue, then I need to plow back to protect the infrastructure that you are using. That revenue gets split to various departments. I've taken note of the smart security system from our kernels. It's quite interesting. I think we'll talk further on that. But the setup that we have is that even with that idea, we still have to convince our security cluster in order to put it in action. We can put all the stuff, but what has been a challenge to the Nelson Mandela was the response. Once you get the alarm that something is happening, you need to get a response to that. That's where we also running short. We also having, teams that are going out to do maintenance on our systems, pumping stations, treatment works. These teams, the crime rate is so high that they need to be escorted. There are areas that we can't even get to at certain times. If there's a call out there, you just wait until the next day, and then you get proper protection to go there. There's also the load shedding. I haven't seen the impact on the Tshwane presentation. The impact of load shedding on the results of the final effluents that they generated, and I would have loved to see also the impact of the COVID-19, because when this assessment was done, we're just coming out, not necessarily completely out of COVID, but there's a huge impact that the Nelson Mandela we had in terms of COVID and in terms of load shedding. Power failure in a wastewater treatment works is fine if it's just for 2 hours, but once it becomes a continuous thing, you tend to lose the quality of the final effluent that you're trying to treat. Then also in terms of the capacity constraints, liquid phase, I can say we're doing much better. The challenge is on the solid phase, your sludges. The sludge management is just critical, and we're not getting, that favorable response from the regulators. All we need, we've done studies, try to classify our sludges in terms of the WRC guidelines. We've classified the sludges in terms of the Waste Act. But all we just need an okay or no from the regulator, and we're battling to get that. But we don't lose hope. We keep on knocking on their doors. Hopefully, they will come and help us. Also, the stormwater management has become an issue with us. Actually, one of our treatment facilities, a 9 megaliter plant, during the beginning of June and 21st, 22nd of October this year, we had heavy rainfall on the Kariga catchment area. We lost a plant. It was completely flooded. Sure. So the stormwater remains a challenge. It could have been perhaps, I'm not so sure currently, but it could have been the fact that maybe we're not doing proper maintenance upstream to divert that flow to go through the right channels. But the flow was just, it went beyond the capacity of the river, and it flooded the whole plant. Yeah. Fortunately, the plant that has been flooded has got an interlinking bypass to a 24 megaliter plant. So we managed to accommodate the flows in that plant. But in terms of our green drop status on the Nelson Mandela, we're sitting at 66%. But when you look at the report that was issued, we actually robbed 8%. And the Department of Water and Sanitation has actually corrected that we are at 66%. And our risk rating, we're sitting at 56.9%, which is medium in terms of the risk rating that has been shared. And also lastly, perhaps our systems within the Nelson Mandela, they are designed mainly to treat the domestic waste. Now you get industries within the picture because we also need jobs and so forth. So we've got a team that operates the trade effluent monitoring. So the teams, they go out to the industries and they take the samples and look at the effluent of the sample coming out of the industry. And the municipality then charges those industries as a charge fee for the additional treatment that is applied to deal with their treatment waste. There are also challenges there. Sometimes we spend a lot of time trying to answer legal disputes and so forth, but it's something that seeks to protect the lifespan of the infrastructure. We share the same thing of aging infrastructure. It's so difficult these days that whilst you refurbishing, something else fails, because our plants run from the 1930s. The latest plant was just built. It's a small plant, less than a megaliter, was built in 2005. I think I can just stop there for a moment. Thanks,
No,
Chair.
no, thank you very much, Anderson, and thank you for giving insight. Quite interesting to get your views, and I would want the panel just to also then comment. So Sibusiso, I'll take your hand now. And maybe just for Cornelius just to comment from his side later on, just to share some reflections on Anderson's feedback, and then maybe Doctor, if you can come through on the sludge management. And then after that, colleagues, just get your hands ready. We'll then take one or two questions. So, Sibusiso, you wanted to come through, just come through with your comment question.
Yes, I just wanted to comment on what Prof. Zimba said, that it's actually quite important that we go back to the basics. I think what he's saying, it's not even about technology, it's just about doing the basics right. And if we did that, we would go a long way in improving the situation. And also implementing those plans. South Africa is known for having excellent plans, but they live in the shelves. They never leave the shelf, and they never
It's
get
common.
implemented.
It's a common issue throughout, and I've seen
Yeah,
that in a lot of different industry. We're good at putting policy and procedures, and but the implementation of that is always a challenge. Always a challenge.
yeah, and also just on what Mr. Mangotra said. I was wondering about this. How come there's always funding issues? But he has, made it a point that actually the revenue that gets collected doesn't get ring
Doesn't
fenced,
know.
because we certainly do pay for these
Mm.
in our rates and taxes, but
And somebody
it
else eats the money.
and then we remain with the problem.
Mm.
Yeah, thanks, Tokir.
No, thanks, Sibusiso. Dr. Svimbi, you can come through and just to comment on the discussion thus far, and then maybe we can just indicate, when it comes to sludge management, seeing that there's some policy issues. I don't know if anything's being done on that from your side. You can come
Yeah,
through,
no,
Doc.
sure. Thanks, Chair. I'm happy to hear that Anderson, on the Eastern Cape side of things, they are making use of the sludge guidelines. Maybe one thing that I would want to mention with regards to those sludge guidelines, I think they were developed around 2006, 2009, thereabout. And we realized that they are becoming old and some of them have become obsolete. And we have already started the process of actually updating them. And I think it's a project that is about to be finalized now. So new guidelines would really be available soon, which really are more current and can respond to the challenges that are associated with sludge management. I agree with Anderson that sludge management is more challenging than dealing with the liquid component, because by nature, wastewater treatment plants are sludge factories. So I just wanted to highlight that we didn't really leave it at developing the 5 sludge guidelines, because over time, our research has sort of progressed. We have actually moved it a gear up, developing over time various tools that can be used to manage sludge. One of them being what is called sludge application rate advisor, which has been developed over a period of 10 to 15 years by the University of Pretoria. where they've developed a tool which can assist you to classify sludge into those various categories that you use as your classification. And the best classification now can be applied for agricultural purposes. And the beauty about that tool, it tells you how much are you supposed to apply per hectare of land and how much accumulation of metals are you likely to have over time, so that you can monitor and you don't really disperse pollution, resulting in secondary source of pollution. At the moment, we've got an ongoing project with Airwatt where we are piloting that so that we transfer that to the wastewater management sector as well as the farmers, so that they can work together to actually manage sludge in a sustainable manner and assist municipalities to deal with the challenges that Anderson raised. Then there is another one where we have also piloted an innovation, and thanks to Kenils as well, city of Tshwane, we piloted this at Zihokat wastewater treatment plant, a technology that can convert sludge to a multi-use hydrochar, which you can use for various purposes, energy source being one of them. This particular technology has sort of progressed to a level whereby eThekwini is now sort of demonstrating it under the SASTEP funding, which is the Bill and Melinda Gates funding. It's one of the innovations that eThekwini now is sort of demonstrating at a demonstration level as a follow-up project. So I'm just throwing in solutions there that can actually be used to support what I refer to as water circular economy, where you can actually recover value from all these things that we can consider problematic. And as we do that, we actually deal with the challenges associated with managing that particular stream. Then with regards to industrial streams, we really understand that particular challenge. It's no longer domestic in nature in terms of the wastewater. There is streams coming from industry. Hence, this issue with regards to emerging contaminants. Most of the emerging contaminants are a result of the industrial streams that are coming. And most of the wastewater treatment plants were never designed to deal with contaminants of an emerging nature. But we've done a lot of fundamental work on emerging contaminants, both locally and globally. The challenge now is for the regulators to move and shift into a space where they should begin to regulate some of these indicator pollutants, so that we have got routine methods that can be used to monitor them, because they tend to be very expensive to analyze. We need routine methods which are quick to give us the answer, so that maybe we can retrofit our wastewater treatment plants. Once they begin to regulate them, then we will be forced to retrofit maybe as tertiary, as part of tertiary treatment, so that we can deal with those. Maybe that's the only opportunity that we have. But in terms of understanding the space, the knowledge, and what needs to be done, that knowledge has been developed. But it is now to filter into the regulatory space, so that the regulators begin to actually regulate that.
No, exactly. No, thanks, Doc. And I think also that back to industry and professionals, we need to then share that back in. And what I want to do is I want to invite you, Doc, to maybe a future presentation. I'll engage with you offline, and I'm very intrigued to follow through with what eThekwini is doing with the innovation they're developing on that side. And if you don't mind, Doc, would you be open to giving us a presentation and a talk in the future sometime on this topic?
Sure, anytime.
Perfect.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
Thank you.
No, we'll definitely get you on board and continue the discussion there. Okay, colleagues, I want to just let's maybe pass on to the audience. Let's take one question there. I see out. We're enjoying the discussion so much. The time is running out. Let's take I don't know, a show of hands. Would anyone want to come through from the audience? I don't know. Oliver, are the guys able to put up their hand?
Takir, they should be. Let's just see what happens.
Okay. I don't see a hand.
I don't see any hands either.
We'll take a first hand. And I think on the chat, let me see if there's one question I can pick up on the chat. I know there's been quite a bit of discussion. Okay, for some reason I'm not able to scroll. Okay. Let's see now. The use of implementing agents needs some serious urgent attention. The department should run their own finance, unlike transferring the budget to implementing agents. Was the one comment here. Okay, let me just see let me come back to my hands here. Okay, let me take from my panel here. Doc, do you want to come through? And then we'll go on to Cornelius.
Thanks very much. We just wanted to give you an opportunity to give the delegates an opportunity to ask their questions. But now that there are no hands, we just thought maybe I can come in. If you look
Sure.
at what Sibusiso presented, for me, the major challenge is operating at overcapacity. And also the investments that are required for upgrade. Because if I remember the former Minister of Water and Sanitation and the former Mayor of Tshwane, they've been to Rooival. If we use Rooival as an example, the issue really was to say, let's refurbish, let's see a upgrade so that we can accommodate the current capacity. And there was also an issue of investment, which really was discussed to say, the city of Tshwane doesn't have money. We've got this much. If I remember, was it 400 million? I don't remember the figures. The national department has to come in and also put some money there. So for me, those are critical issues. So now, from a research point of view, remember I said it's not really about technology. Yes, technology, we can have this nice to have for futuristic application, but we want things that are really immediate. For us, really, what we did was to say we need to understand the capacity and investment requirements that are required nationally up to 2050. So can we develop a tool, such a tool, really, which can assist municipalities to understand on the basis of the population changes? Because we understand the rate at which the population change in each city or in each catchment or in each municipality. That can be estimated on the basis of data from Stats SA. And we can translate that translation in terms of how much wastewater are we expecting to be coming into the system and be in a position now to predict the capacity that we would require by 2030, by 2040, by 2050, as well as the investments. Remember, Kenos mentioned investment funding challenges. It's another key thing. Because if we understand the capacity that we need for the next 10 years, but we don't understand the investments that we would require to match that upgrade which is required, and also determine the tariff that should be charged to actually resource that investment over and above all the other sources of funding that are available to municipalities. So we have sort of developed a tool that allows municipalities to begin to project into the future as a proactive approach to understand what their needs are, so that we don't have these situations whereby a plant is operating at full capacity or over capacity, and then you create challenges. Now we have got a rival wastewater treatment plant which is upstream of Yetemba water treatment plant, and people in Hammanskraal cannot even get good quality water. There is no way you can have good quality water from Temba drinking water treatment plant when a river water treatment plant which is upstream is not working properly. So that kind of proactive thinking and planning with a simple tool that gives you that information, you can always plan up to a time frame that is suitable for your situation. I can even ask a question here. The upgrades and the expansion that is being done at Rival, are they going to cater up until 2030, 2040, and then we start all over again, or it's up to 2050? So having a tool that gives you a sense, maybe you can have a plan in place where you say 5 years, 10 years, I always review my capacity upgrade. In certain instances, you have to build a new plant as the population increases. And that intelligence and due diligence, for me, is the most important. Operation and maintenance, we've got so many guidelines that if they are followed, including the planning that I mentioned earlier on, and having the relevant resources, those things should be easy. What I see with wastewater management is that it's never prioritized in municipalities. Those who are in charge of the budgets, they prioritize drinking water, forgetting that we have got one water. You mess up with wastewater, you compromise your drinking water, because these things are connected. It's one cycle.
Yeah.
I will stop there to give others a chance. Thank you.
No, thank you, Doc. Much appreciated with your comments. I think then let me then there's one hand we'll take from the audience just now. Cornelius, you had your hand up, and then maybe as you come in, Doc Swambi did put a question back to you in terms of the plans, long-term plans. If you can come through with your comment, and then just maybe address the question from the doctor.
Thank you very much, Takir. First of all, the municipality, and I think most other municipalities drafted master plans. And the master plans is also dated on the current and historical data, indicating when what is required, when we need to upgrade or extend wastewater treatment works due to development that is taking place in the catchments. So from the master plans, they were not financed at that stage. We developed a capital investment plan indicating the estimate figures that we require to upgrade the wastewater treatment works, extend it, to refurbish it, put in new technology, or else, we are planning for that. We've got documents available, but unfortunately, it is not funded. So what the current situation in the municipality is, we have been approaching the Infrastructure South Africa. They are busy with early business cases, intermediate business cases, so that they can assist with funding requests and bankable submissions. We have also approached DSIF, which is the Danida Sustainable Infrastructure Finance, and we also received some funds from USDG, which is the Urban Settlements Development Grant. With all these things, we are approaching them. We are really trying our utmost best to fund our immediate need, and our immediate need for upgrade and extension of our critical wastewater treatment works is about 11 billion rand. The Rooiwal Phase 2 and Phase 3 upgrade requires something like 4 billion rand. We, as a municipality, do not have those funds. Then something that Mr. Mankotiwa mentioned about the ring fencing of revenue. There is a national treasury drive where water and sanitation departments needs to develop business units within the municipality. This will include all business activities to operate a utility company, if I can say that. It will then result that all revenue collected from selling of water will become a ring fence for sanitation services as well. And the Water Services Act require that only a maximum of 10% must be transferred to the municipality that it can sustain their businesses. The impact of load shedding is definitely there. We also have it. It is not only load shedding, but let's say it is interruption of power supply, which might either be due to vandalism, cable theft, or load shedding. So that is a real impact. COVID-19 did not impact the wastewater treatment works at City of Tshwane very severely. We had COVID cases. I think the biggest impact is really revenue collection to sustain our operation and maintenance. The city is having challenges with cash flow, and for that reason, they have cut some of our maintenance budgets. Capacity constraints regarding sludge, specifically in City of Tshwane. We have a contractor that are beneficiating the sludge. They granulate the sludge. They've put some fertilizer in it so that when it is required by the farmers, they've got a registered product that they can supply to the farmers. We are also busy with a sludge management strategy development so that it will eventually result in a sludge management plan that will be estimated funding requested, the same as what City of Cape Town has done. And I think that will really assist the municipality and give us direction which way are we going to go forward. Stormwater is a problem, ingress is a problem, and for that reason, we have bylaws that requires that your downpipes from the house roofs needs to be redirected not to the sewer, but I think there's also something in the pipeline. The clearance certificate might be required when you sell your property to indicate that you don't drain your pipes into the sewer network. Thank you very much.
No, thanks. I think that Lawson is a very good initiative, and all municipalities should adopt that. Because now, whenever there's heavy rains, you see the sewage manuals are always overflowing. So it's definitely okay. Colleagues, I'm going to just take two hands from the crowd, and I'm going to have a one round of final comments. If everyone doesn't mind holding on for another maximum 10 minutes. Um, Zendane Kubani, you had your hand up. Do you still want to come through? Oliver, if we can just maybe Zendane, if we can I don't know if I can do it from my side. Allow mic. Zendane, if you still want to come through, you can come through. I think your mic should be open.
Thanks, Chairperson. Now, my name is Zendane Kuboni. I am coming from the Chris Hani District Municipality, which is in the Eastern Cape. I want to first appreciate the presentation from Sbusiso. It's much appreciated. It's highlighting things that we're already aware about as municipalities, but I would like to share the same sentiments as my colleague from Nelson Mandela Bay, that the issue of theft and vandalism is a big issue. And it's so unfortunate that we have not, as a country, gone to a stage where we say it should be treated as treason. Because if I may ask from the Tshwane, probably how much is it costing them just to deal with the issue of theft and vandalism on an annual basis? Because as Chris Hani, for instance, listening to the approach that they are mentioning regarding the smart security system, we will never be able to afford it. And even operating it, because currently now our cost for security personnel that we have employed on an annual basis is costing about 100 million per annum. And then you ask yourself, as a rural municipality, where are you getting the funding? Because even in terms of revenue collection, we are not even be able to sustain that. So it's one of the issues that, in terms of the things that have been highlighted, yes, the green drop system, in terms of the assessment, it's a great system whereby all municipalities are trying their level best to adhere to it, because they are saying it's an incentive-based program, of which is DWS, through the MIG funding, has even made provision that through the 10% allowance to address our non-compliances in terms of directives, whether we have spillages. So those are some of the things that the Treasury with the department have made strives that we address them. Because at the end of the day, the same wastewater that is non-compliant, that is spilling into our rivers, is the same water downstream we're collecting to treat the same water. Yes, for drinking. And it's so sad that we are unable to do anything about it. And unfortunately, we have a situation whereby social issues now are forced into us to have engineering solutions, whereas there are social issues which if we go to the past, whereby if our infrastructure was like, if government today or the president might declare that if you damage the property of infrastructure, whether it's water and sanitation, it should be treated as treason. So that's what I just wanted to share from my side. That look, yes, it's not easy. We could talk the entire day discussing all these issues. But it's such an eye opener. Because you look at the problems that are faced with the metros, how difficult it is for them, and it's double, it's 10 times the problems that we're having.
Town.
Yes.
No, definitely. No, thank you very much, Zendani. So, homeboy, myself, I am from Queenstown, Komani. So so we both from the same hometown. It's good to have you on board. Okay, we'll take the last hand from the audience, Dr. Tony Mohindra. Let me see if I can unmute you. Let's see if I try this here. Allow mic. Okay, can try now, Dr. Tony. Your mic should be open. You can unmute from your side.
Yes, thank you very much.
Go for
Greetings.
it. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, much appreciated for the presentation and the comments. Just as a quick introduction, I'm Tony Mondiwa. I'm working for Transnet Port Terminals based in Saldanha, West Coast. And I'm also the Vice Chairperson of the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers Energy Storage Chapter and the incoming renewable energy chapter under the same umbrella. I'm just coming in especially on 2 points. The first one that highlighted challenges associated related to load shedding. Yes, for now we have got power, but I think there is a need to think ahead and probably being proactive in case of such emergencies as well. So with the coming in of battery energy storage technologies, microgrids, I think it might be a noble idea to identify those critical areas where microgrids coupled with the battery energy storage systems or any other storage system that can be used to try and curb the issue of power loss and increase reliability, and so try to manage the issue of theft. Of course, it comes with its own challenges of protection as well. And in the same vein, I just wanted to latch on the point of smart security. I think in the long run, it might appear as if it's expensive, but my view is that it will actually cut in terms of the number of warm bodies required, but provide sort of more organized, more proactive, and increase the response time to ensure that the issue of theft and vandalism can be managed from that angle. So I just wanted to let you on those 2 points to make sure there's the security of power and make use of, there's a number of technologies now that are available for smart security. And I'm sure if comparisons are made, they will provide some saving. Because of time, I think I will just end here. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commit, for.
Thank you, Tony. Much appreciated. So, colleagues, that we're pretty much coming towards the end. I'm going to ask my panel members to each have a 30-second closing statement, take into account the discussions thus far and the comments from the audience as well. I'll go in alphabetical order. Anderson, I'll start with yourself. Just your 30 seconds in closing.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is just to say to the colleagues that let us not lose hope. There will be a change as long as we keep on going. Interesting thing, this National Treasury involvement now. It looks like they are starting to listen to the cries that we've been putting out. And it also opens up room for further engagement in terms of the smart security systems, as well as the sludge management that Tshwane has just shared with us. We will probably engage further on a one-on-one basis. Thanks, Chair.
No, thanks. So this is the platform for making connections and networks. So no, thanks for that, Anderson. Dr. Zvimba, your closing statement.
Thanks very much, Chair. We need to continue working hard. We need to persevere. It's not a lost cause. We can actually win this battle. And also going to Tony, what he has raised, because no one responded to that. Our research actually is going in that direction. We need to convert wastewater treatment plants, current ones, to be future water resource recovery facilities where you can recover energy, water, materials in support of sustainable wastewater management. But we can't be now presenting that knowledge to the wastewater sector when they are still battling with the fundamental things of just managing that wastewater. But that knowledge, we are on top of that, and that's the way to go. And that's the future, digitization of the wastewater system.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Smart technologies. Thanks, Doc. Kaniels, your closing statement?
Short and sweet. Let us learn from each other. Thank you very much for this platform. Thank you for understanding the challenges that we have, not only in the city of Tshwane, but at all the wastewater treatment works in the country. We appreciate this platform, and thank you again for the networking.
No, thanks. Thank you, Kaniel, and definitely, great platform. And maybe just to add on to that, colleagues, if there's anyone, online, because we had the different municipalities, Chris Hani district, anyone out there, if you want to present on this platform, please do reach out to myself and Tom McCoon or Oliver. Will then, assist you on that. Sibusiso, last but not least, your closing statement, if you can come through.
Yes, Takir, I also just want to express my appreciation to SAICE, particularly yourself and Tom, for arranging this platform. It's extremely beneficial. I'm still new, but I look forward to more engagements and networking.
No, definitely.
Thank you so much.
No, thanks, Sibusiso. And then I think I know Dina was online to support you. Is also our long-standing committee member on SAICE Knowledge Trailblazer. Thank you, Dina, for making the connection and pulling in Sibusiso. Let us pull more professionals into this committee and create more presentations. So from my side, colleagues, thank you to our panelists for attending and joining today. For this insightful discussion on the critical role of wastewater treatment work in ensuring, health and environmental sustainability. And what we can pick up, and just a few notes I made, vandalism is a challenge. We need to find an effective solution, and it's not only locally, but from a national point of view. Aging infrastructure, is also a challenge. Asset management is quite key. Again, we need to do the basics right, as the doctor has repeated, quite a good few times. Long-term planning is also quite key and critical for us to get into that space as well. And what's the most important is that we need to treat the wastewater, because if we don't treat it, where it needs to be treated, we are drinking that same water downstream. So it's just keep that in mind. So colleagues, I see there is one or two hands. If I can kindly request, if you can put your comment and question in the chat box. I still need to give feedback to our other sessions, so just maybe a bit of backlog on my side. But do put your question in the chat box, and we'll arrange for the panel members just to answer that. So and then again from our side, as we conclude, the collaboration between government, industry, academia, quite important for us to then work together and then get towards solutions in this sector and within our fields as a whole. And just to also then for our civil engineers online, and I'm sure not only do we have civil engineers, we do have other mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, and just to within the wastewater treatment work, you would understand that there is electrical supply, there is mechanical works. So again, just for me, reaching out to our civil engineers, broaden your field. We need to be more than just civil engineers. Learn the other fields. When it comes to looking for solutions, we may find them in us learning from the other fields as well, and gaining that experience, from technology and other engineering fields as well. I think from our side, the colleagues, thank you. There is a question there.
There was a couple of hands.
I'm mindful of time, Sibusi, so I don't want to hold everyone. We were meant to close at 6. So hence I'm asking if we can maybe put those questions in the comment. If that's okay, colleagues. No, thanks, Sibusi. So again, now apologies, I don't mean to cut off anyone, but I'm just mindful of time. And as was indicated early on, is that we can sit here for hours and hours and discuss, but I understand that some of our colleagues online need to go home as well. But again, thank you to the audience for joining. Thank you for making the time. Thank you very much to my panel members. Let's keep on learning and keep on exploring. So from my side, colleagues, this is the Knowledge Trailblazer signing out. Thanks.